council received an email from Jake Mather, effective immediately resigning from the school committee. The past 2 years have been very hard on all school committee members. Harassment and belittling on stage and unbelievable and unfounded accusations made it impossible to be productive in any meaningful way.
I wonder which town council person he was referring to, not so subtly, when he talked about the harassment and unfounded accusations that made him resign from the school committee. I wonder who could have possibly been behind that. Very interesting.
It just became too much, and I needed to do what was right for my family.
Jesus. It's just really funny to me when Mary Brimer will later complain about being bullied and harassed, when literally a school committee member actually resigned because he was tired of getting harassed by her and her crowd. He actually couldn't take it anymore, and his family couldn't take it anymore, so he left the position. But people are so mean to Mary Brimer, she says that a weaker person would want to kill herself, by the way, which I'll get into later. What a disgusting, morally revolting fucking way to abuse and cynically misuse the actual serious issues that suicidal people go through, to turn yourself into the victim and be the cry bully. Oh no. Mary Brimer's mortal enemy is taking the stand. What will she do?
I am disappointed and upset that town council member Mary Brimer, for some reason videotaping me, tainted North Kingstown's back to school season.
I started losing it with Brett. She's fucking, I'm recording you too. I'm recording you too. It was so funny. And you see the girl at the long black hair who was like giving me the stink eye. That's because she's with the crowd of people who came here to support Brimer. So she was upset with me for like laughing with Brett and making fun of Brimer for taking out her phone as some sort of like optical stunt.
Council member Brimer's participation in spreading false tales of cat litter boxes in students' bathrooms was preposterous and dangerous.
True.
Council member Brimer could have simply asked the school committee members or the superintendent about the false story. But no, Councilman Brimer decided to speak with the media while speaking poorly about the school department. And then she went so far to request that people send her pictures from inside children's public school restrooms.
For proof of the litter boxes. Which was pretty fucked up.
Please let her speak, ma'am.
This is when I really fucking, I wish I was recording myself, because the fucking shitty, the mics aren't capturing this. But this lady right here, this is what she starts saying loudly for everyone in the room to hear, which you can't tell because of the poor sound quality in this video. So she's just allowed to call her out personally, and then I fucking respond to her and I go, yeah, because she's a politician. And then you see me and her getting into it.
Students are not political pawns, and I'm hoping that there would be some kind
Or maybe
of apology, a little bit more civic discourse when talking about the public school department for which you are a town council member. Thank you. Did you get enough video of me?
Okay. Yes.
If you look up her LinkedIn profile, her professional blog calls herself a self-diagnosed narcissist.
Imagine taking a dumb, fucking obvious joke line from someone's social media and using that to attack them on like a town council meeting. Is that the best you got? Because if so, that's some pretty weak sauce, my dude.
The level of bullying and harassment that I have personally sustained from her directly through my phone, through my answering service, through my email, has risen to the level that a fragile person would commit suicide.
First of all, you are a fragile person. That's why you're complaining. Second of all, this is the message that made her want to kill herself, by the way. This was the harassment. So, and there's an email too. Hi, Mary, it's me. Is this the correct number to send cat litter pictures? Thanks. Please. And then she sends her my video. Please watch, then resign. Thanks. I'm sharing this video on a national level. Get ready for your close-up. And so she also says she sent an email to all council members saying that her stunts, Mary Brimer's stunts, were embarrassing. And then sent a voicemail to her, was basically the same as this message that we're watching here. So not exactly the level of harassment that Mary Brimer is trying to paint it as. And I'm going to be honest, if this is enough for you to cry about how a fragile person would want to commit suicide, if that's how fragile you are, that you think this is harassment as a public official fielding criticism, you don't belong in public power, you don't belong in politics at all. You're just way too sensitive to be dealing with public town policy in a serious way. I can't imagine how these people would react to one of their opponents crying about being harassed when they're getting sent messages that are this banal. Go fuck yourself, you disingenuous prick. So we had her cynically using victims of Aaron Thomas to push her dumbass culture war fight. Now we have her using the serious issues that suicidality, the issues that suicidal people go through, to turn herself into the victim and deflect valid criticism of her behavior. This is disgusting behavior for someone who is elected to public power. It's cynical, it's manipulative, and it's not acceptable. You're not just a cry baby, you're a cry bully. You are someone who starts a fight, starts a drama around an imaginary issue around litter boxes. You call your opponents Marxists who hate white people, which is what she did to that Jennifer Lima lady that she tried to actually bully off of the school committee. And remember, she actually did succeed in harassing one school committee member to the point where he actually resigned from his position. You start all this drama, you start all these fights, you pick all these fights with all these people, and turn your opponents into monsters who want children to unsanitarily use litter boxes. And now, when people send you this message saying, resign, bro, you're embarrassing, that's enough for you to want to kill yourself? Sounds like someone who can dish it out but can't take it. Also, she doesn't actually feel so bad that she wants to kill herself. She's just playing it up for sympathy points. She wants sympathy. She's not feeling suicidal. And she is a fragile person. She actually is. She is incapable of taking criticism on the chin, which is why she brings up in this response the girl's private job, which is why she is at the moment, as I speak, requesting meetings and getting meetings with this woman's boss at her private company where she works, and the CEO where she works, in an attempt to convince them to fire her. She doesn't work at the public government level. She doesn't work at the local government. She doesn't work at a town office. She works at a private company. And this woman, Mary Brimer, is trying, and the people who support her, a couple of the girls who are sitting in front of me, they're involved in it too, trying to get the lady fired because she criticized the councilwoman. Think about how scary that should be to any self-respecting conservative. Think about how scary that is. If you're a self-respecting conservative who cares about holding the government accountable, allowing free speech, think about how scary the precedent is that someone who is elected to office gets criticism like this, that is this banal and this easy to just take on the chin, calls it her bullying, and then goes to your private workplace to try to take your job from you. If the roles were reversed, the conservatives in this town would be going crazy. And you know what? I haven't lost so much faith in humanity that I don't believe it's possible that the conservatives still will, and that they will throw out this lady for not actually caring about the principles of free speech or criticizing your politicians and holding them accountable. There is just no way. I actually can't believe in my heart of hearts that the conservative people who live in my old high school's town are actually so lost that they can't look at this and see how nasty and inappropriate it is to attack the job of a private citizen who criticizes a politician. But maybe they are that far gone. And maybe it is only just, we like it when the people that we like do it. We just don't like it when our opposition does it to us. Maybe that's it.
Shame on you, madam. Shame on you.
Well, let's leave it
No,
there.
no, I'm not done yet. No, I am not done yet because
listen, it is,
excuse me.
no, excuse me.
We
I'm
do
the
not
chair.
have the same level of privacy that an ordinary person
Mary-
does. When you're elected, you do not. So I want you to be known in this room for exactly who you are.
She says we don't have the same level of privacy. People who work on a town council come under more scrutiny. That's true. And it also, to be clear, because you seem to not understand it, it's true for a reason. Because we're supposed to hold you accountable, not the other way around. Also, it's really rich for her to say this when literally after the day after this meeting, she's meeting with this lady's boss at a private company trying to convince them to fire her. Like, how rich? How can you be such a disingenuous fucking snake and lie and pretend like you care about fucking privacy? Go fuck yourself.
Mary,
You are
this
a
is
bully,
no
and the
violation of our rules, and
embarrassed to employ
you
you.
agree.
So I'm gonna remember to cut out the specific company. She names the company that the lady works for as an attempt to get people to harass her at the company, and then she went to that company and talked to her boss to try to bully her out of her job. So she doesn't care about privacy. Like, I know the private company that this Mary Brimer lady works at a day job. You'll notice I never mention it. It's because I don't give a shit where she works. I'm not interested in getting her fired from her boring fucking day job. But that's because I'm not petty. I'm trying to get her removed, hopefully, in the upcoming election from her position on the town council, because I think she's a really shitty town council person. I think she does nothing but harm to the community she's supposed to serve. I think that her methods of engaging with her opposition are completely inappropriate and toxic. And I think that she just can't handle it. I think she's more interested in shit stirring than she is actually dealing with town issues and the boring day to day. She just wants to start fights about CRT at schools, even though no one's doing CRT in schools. She wants to call school committee members Marxists with no basis for alleging such. She wants to pretend like fucking people are like giving people sandboxes. It's just, I haven't seen yet in my entire time looking up this woman and her interviews, her engaging with town policy in a very serious way. But I'm not going up to the meeting and say, such and such a financial planning company should be ashamed to have you. I hope they remove you. I'm not like emailing her boss. I don't hate this lady, and I don't come out to these town council meetings because I want her to personally suffer, like in her normal fucking life outside of her position at this council. I want her removed because I hate her, because I don't think she's doing anything that's good for the town. I think she's a shit stirrer. I think she's a fucking blowhard who talks about fake issues and tries to attack perfectly reasonable school committee members and council people on false pretenses. And I just think she's a massive piece of shit. That doesn't mean I want her to not have a job or not have a fucking home or not be able to make money or any of that. I don't care. It's not that deep for me.
It's a violation of rules, no personal insults.
Really?
Yes.
Are you kidding me? You can insult her? Are you kidding me?
You're out of order. You're out of order, ma'am. You're out of order, ma'am. Listen, ma'am. Ma'am!
God. Imagine being so fucking low IQ that you don't understand the difference between a private citizen going on the stand to criticize the actions of a sitting councilwoman and the difference between that and that same councilwoman turning to the private citizen and telling her private job should be ashamed of her when her private job is unrelated to the town issue being discussed. Imagine this fucking black-haired lady is fucking insane. And okay, so this is, you couldn't really catch the conversation, but this is but you can insult the councilwoman? And I said, yes, she's a politician. You're allowed to insult politicians. Also, to call it insulting is kind of misleading because she was giving criticism, whereas Mary Brimer was attacking her private job and just calling her a bully and yelling shame on you over and over. it wasn't like she was giving like a substantive criticism or a response to the citizen's complaint. Yeah, she's a politician. You're allowed to do that. This is a public comment section. And she keeps like, get out of here, YouTube guy. Get out of here, YouTube guy. As if I was going to say, okay, and fucking leave. Like, it's just fucking trying to posture and act like you're fucking tough. She was really... If nothing else, I'm not only glad that the video I made got so many views, I am also glad that it made this massive fucking piece of shit so fucking ass mad. And then we have... this other lady right next to her, whose name is Tiffany McLeod, who's actually involved in trying to get the lady who is criticizing Brimer removed from her job, and was literally messaging her this morning, taunting her, saying that they were going to meet with her boss and get her fired. This piece of shit. She actually went up herself and made some public comments on her own.
You're out of order. You're out of order, ma'am. You're out of order, ma'am.
That's what you say. No, you're out of order. No, you're out of order. Bang, 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 bang.
Listen, ma'am. Ma'am.
Brett's just drinking water while this happens. Oh, God. John's getting me in trouble again.
You're so brave showing your face here, YouTube.
Pamela Pinchero.
As if I was only brave enough to talk shit on YouTube and wasn't brave enough to go to the meeting myself, which I clearly was because I did it. She responded, she said that because I was like, wow, you're so brave, dude. You're so brave. Good job. You're so brave. That made her fucking mad. She was so mad. Are you mad, bro? I didn't even hear this part because when two people are yelling over each other, neither person can hear the other, which is why it's stupid to do that. But apparently, while we were going back and forth, she said something about, oh, you brought your friend too? It's like, you literally brought 3 friends, dog. Like, there's 3 of you. First of all. Second of all, there's nothing wrong with me bringing a friend. Third of all, he's not even involved in this. He's not commenting, or he's not talking shit online, or he's not going up making statements. He's just here for the show. He's here to watch the clown circus. I love how she's bringing this up as if, like, I need, like, physical protection from Brett. Like, he's my fucking... Like, I would ask fucking... No offense to Brett. Like, Brett would be the person I asked to physically protect me from... the crazy fucking 30-year-old woman in the stand in front of me. What? In case you didn't catch that because the mic isn't working, encourage cooperation and discourage divisiveness. I wonder who that's referring to again. Every time I heard something like, I don't know if she's looking at me right now. Every time I heard a line like, you know, the school committee member resigned because of all the false accusations, or someone saying, you know, we really need someone who's not going to be as divisive. I always started smiling. I started looking right at Mary Brimer. I was so amused by that.
Someone who has not been embroiled in current controversies. Someone who is objective and unbiased. Someone who thinks clearly. We need someone.
She's laying into her without naming her.
This town to heal and move forward in a positive way.
This lady is pretty cool. She actually came up to me after my statements. It's like, good job, Ginger. Gingers unite kind of a thing. She really appreciated what I had to say.
I'm tired of the divisiveness. I'm tired of being afraid to come speak at these meetings.
True.
I'm tired of the...
Yeah, that's a really true point. When one of the people here, who was involved with the group who was yelling at me, actually had a couple assault arrests. Now, I will qualify that by saying I don't know whether or not there were actual charges related to those arrests. But if this lady is screaming and disrupting council members, disrupting the meeting, and then screaming at me because I made a YouTube video making fun of her favorite local politician, and her friend has had assault charges, like, I would understand this lady being afraid to speak her mind at these meetings myself. It's not an unwarranted concern.
I felt compelled to come out this evening to express my concern about what I believe are reckless actions of a committee member. From the moment a post went out calling on people to enter school bathrooms and take pictures of alleged kitty litter.
I will say, it does, as much as I don't like these people, and I don't like the people who came, well, at least the 2 girls on the left who came to support her, woman on the right seemed fine, although she was in the same group. As much as I don't like the opposition here, I have to say it's very optimistic looking at the proportion of how many people are fed up with Mary Brimer's bullshit versus how many people are supporting her and making Instagram accounts shilling for her, so on and so forth. It's a much better balance than I found when I went to the town council meeting in Woonsocket, where people were dogpiling Alex Kivas and doing tacit support for the John Dion radio host guy. This was a much better experience in my opinion. If this room is any indication of the attitude of the town in general, that would be a very good sign. But who knows if that's a representative sample or not.
And our teachers have clearly communicated to us that they are feeling burnt out and unsupported. And despite all of this and all the issues that could be taken up, Ms. Brimer still felt it appropriate to place North Kingstown in the center of political theatrics. She
True.
Placed a target on the backs of children who were doing nothing to cause harm. A little headband and some eyeliner. And now people online are saying horrific things about
So the part where she said where she cut out is that students are now having horrible things said about them online on Facebook pages, which is true, by the way. And I should remember to bring this up, but I'm banned from some of these pages now for shitting on this lady too much. But there's just so many posts saying, wow, kids are crazy. You know what would really solve it? Did that back in the day, kids would just bully you and then you would stop doing it. That's the kind of commentary you're getting from people who live in the town on the public pages. It's really kind of nasty, kind of disgusting, kind of unproductive. Just calling old people making posts, calling students who wear cat ears mentally ill. It's really disgusting. Imagine if literally the entire issue was just centered around a headband with ears and some eyeliner with little I don't know, cat whiskers or something. Imagine if that was the entire issue. And that's what this Mary Brimer lady decided to make a shitstorm about. How fucking insufferable would that be? If it turned out that all of the stories on litter boxes and the stories that her friend John DePetro literally posted as true, imagine if that all stemmed, if all of these complaints about teachers letting teachers, that would be even weirder, right? Teachers letting students identify as cats and so on and so forth. If it all just came down to, no, they're just wearing some eyeliner and they have a headband with cat ears on them. How fucking annoyed would you be? Either if you went to this school or if you were a teacher at the school, if you were on the school committee, one of the members that this lady is actually bullying, not just fake bullying like she cries about. Imagine if you knew that that was the entire issue and you still had to subject yourself to this kind of a fucking clown circus of people trying to turn it into a real issue. How fucking annoying would that be? Pretty annoying, right? Well, that's why people don't like Mary Brimer. So right now she's saying, I don't believe that Miss Brimer actually fell for the fake story that was repeated in other states. I believe this was a calculated move on her part to get attention, to get publicity, and to get support, and to attack the school committee, which is 100% true.
Secondly, I'm asking the council to recuse any member of the council who resides with a person who is running for school committee.
They're bringing this part up because the psychiatrist guy who's about to get up to the stand and speak in support of Mary Brimer actually lives with her. How funny is that? And we'll get to him in a second, don't worry, but it's just another funny tidbit on top of all this bullshit.
There's a significant conflict of interest if someone lives with a person who's campaigning and vying for a seat while also making decisions and voting on the issues related to the same school committee.
True. Apparently, I guess that guy was running for the empty school committee seat, or maybe a different seat. I'm not 100%.
I'm not a middle-aged angry Karen, but I am angry. I'm the parent of two.
That was funny because Mary Brimer at one point made a statement where the only people who don't like me are middle-aged angry Karens. It's well, that turned out not to be true. It's just such a funny thing to say. Everyone who doesn't like me is just a middle-aged Karen. Go fucking cope harder, dude. It's come on, you can admit, right? I can admit there are reasons why people don't like me. Can you admit that there are valid reasons why people don't like you? Hey, listen, people don't like me because I bring up stories that they think are inconvenient or that go against their narratives. Like, you could say some shit like that. I say bombastic shit that gets people mad, and I own it. You could say some shit like that, but it just sounds so weak when you're going, oh my god, everyone who doesn't like me is just a middle-aged Karen.
I'm here to demand that Mary Brimer ratchet up your level of respect for all the citizens of this town. What you did till last week to stir up a media storm of hate on our kids and our town was shameful. Please hear
True.
me when I tell you, we do not need town council members stirring up new trouble. Imagine my surprise when I finally pulled up the radio
Imagine my shock. Sorry, continue.
interview with Mary, clearly based on a political agenda that was exactly the opposite of these efforts.
True.
Mary's anti-DEI agenda last week was to propagate a hoax and publicly rub kitty litter in the already black eye of our town.
Poetic. Also, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also don't know if Mary's made any statements against DEI or diversity, but she has 100% pushed the false narrative that teachers at NK schools are trying to teach CRT and make white kids hate themselves, which isn't true. She's just ass mad that people talk about like racism in the past in an honest way.
Whose lives have been uprooted by the isolation and anxiety caused by the pandemic and distance learning.
We have to talk about the
If a
pandemic.
student wants to wear a cat ear headband and face paint on whiskers to find comfort and express their uniqueness at school, then so be it.
I will say that I would not have used that line personally. I think it's important to say, hey, like, if the school decides that people wearing the headband and having the makeup with whiskers, if they decide that it's not causing a problem, then there's no reason to take action. If the school decides that it is causing a disruption, then fine, they'll take action. The problem isn't that. If there's some sort of dress code or if they need to take care of that and tell students not to do that, then that's perfectly fine. It's just not the town council ladies' place to make that decision or to stir shit up or to cause a major issue about that. It's just really inappropriate. And instead of parents complaining to Mary Brimer and then having her complain to a radio host about cat litter, which is really fucking weird, those parents should have done the right thing, if they exist, which again I don't believe they really do, and gone to the school committee and brought it up there. That would have been more appropriate than whatever the fuck is going on here. That's just the way that I would push back against someone who nominally agrees with me on this issue, but that I have slight disagreements with myself, or I would say I would steer clear of saying that, oh, it's 100% okay in all cases for students to do that. It may or it may not. I would caution people against making strong statements about that. The school should be deciding that. It's just, I don't know. I could see the potential for it to be distracting, and I wouldn't hand wave that away.
The last thing we need is a high-ranking member of our town and the media mob you incited to publicly belittle those kids.
True.
Wrap it up soon, okay?
Which is what's happening, by the way.
Kim Page, Greg Mancini, and especially Katie Anderson, who joined the NK School Department, and Jen Lima and Greg Blasbag from the school committee for a strong and swift response to the quell the firestorm of the litterbox hoax. Certainly, these professionals had better to do last week than field angry questions all day.
Aaron Thomas distorted my reality as an adolescent. He corrupted my first love and confounded my ability to connect with others at the most intimate level. He sowed self-doubt and suffocated my opportunity at being believed. Without a voice, I have felt resigned to a fate that is not mine. That is part of a victim statement that I read at the State House in May when some of us were advocating for a passage of the sexual consent bill. No one from our town council or school committee showed up for that. You didn't show when one of our own testified in support of the bill or 2 months later when it was passed.
I actually think it's perfectly fine to criticize town council members and school committee members for not going to that because of the stuff that happened in North Kingstown with Aaron Thomas. However, I do want to make sure that it's clear that they weren't voting on it. It was the Rhode Island General Assembly. I'm not saying she's misrepresenting that. I'm just making sure that it's clear that they weren't there because they weren't voting on it. But it would have been nice to show up and like show some sort of visible support for that because of everything that happened. That is a fair enough criticism.
Ms. Anderson brought forth a resolution to declare June as Gun Violence Awareness Month in North Kingstown, which passed 3-2. It never even occurred to any of the Democrats to consider a resolution to declare any month the Sexual Abuse Awareness Month in our town, which has been eviscerated by allegations of child sexual abuse. The town council should stay in its lane was all that was heard at the time from President Mancini. The $25,000 McGurl report was delivered in mid-June with 13 pages of excellent public safety recommendations for the town and school department to consider implementing. Some of us wrote asking for a joint school committee town council meeting as soon as possible. June wouldn't work though, as we were told Mr. Mancini was on vacation. Meantime, I emailed and spoke numerous times with Ms. Anderson about getting our elected officials to act on the recommendations. We talked about suggestions and solutions, and she offered to bring them to the school committee. I offered to work together and help in any way. But months ticked by and nothing. On Friday, a Boston Globe article about some DMS boys reporting on their teacher for inappropriate behavior reignited that story. The most the town council could muster was to send a letter to the school committee after their August 24th meeting, formally requesting a written response to Judge McGurl's recommendations.
Is that not a good response? I don't understand. I'm not being an asshole here. I'm just trying to understand. Is that not an appropriate course of action for them to take? Like, is she going to get into what would you rather them do in that regard? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but the town council cannot force the school committee to respond to anything. If anything, you should go to the school committee and complain to them for not responding. Unless I'm missing something here. You went to the town council and said, hey, I want the school committee to respond to this report, which is fair. I actually think that's a fine criticism. But then the town council says, okay, and then they formally request the school committee to make a response. And then the school committee doesn't do that. And then you go to the town council to, I guess, berate them for not doing enough. Go to the school committee and berate them for not responding.
That deadline has come and gone by almost a week, and as of today, no response from the school committee. And yet last week, it took a mere 24 hours for the Democrat town council members, along with our Democrat school committee members, to organize and publicize a peaceful one-hour gathering in response to an issue they declared was a hoax. One by one, our officials spoke and were applauded by each other. And despite suffering from COVID, Jen Lima was able to both attend that event and reach out to Dan York to discuss that matter for 20 minutes on his show. There was time for all of that, but no time for those same people to gather and discuss Judge McGurl's recommendations at any point in the last 3 months.
This McGurl report is 100% valid, and it's a critique of the failure to stop Aaron Thomas's harassment while it was happening. It says the North Kingstown should work with lawmakers to enact legislation to address these issues on a statewide level. The McGurl judge credited the school department for changes it had already made, which include requiring that the athletic director report directly to the superintendent of schools. Okay, so they wanted a written response from the school committee to the McGurl report. The judge who wrote the report, by the way, was, I guess, appointed by the town council. I don't know whether you would want to give them credit or not for appointing someone who was willing to criticize them in the school committee, but I guess there you go. But the woman's criticism is fair. I guess I would say it is fair to say that it's fucked up that the school committee wouldn't make a written response to the McGurl report. But it sounds like the school department itself, at least, has made changes, and that McGurl recognizes that, and as the article says, credits them for making some changes that would help in the future. So the lady's criticism seems understandable. I guess the school committee just doesn't want to embarrass themselves by continuing to refer to it, which you would argue is bullshit. They should have to face the consequences. Apparently, her criticism is that she wanted a written response from the school committee. She didn't get one. There was a spoken response by the chairman of the school committee, but it was seen as not a very good response. It was seen as giving lip service. She's criticizing the school committee for not directly responding in written form to that, and saying that it's bullshit that they also went on to attack Mary Brimer for spreading the litterbox things. Of course, my response would be that they should have done both. They should have still attacked Mary Brimer for doing the litterbox thing, but also have made some sort of written statement about the McGurl report and about how they're going to correct failings that happened in the future to make sure that it doesn't happen again. That would have been the smart thing to do. I would find her complaint even more compelling if she was able to say, hey, I like Mary Brimer. I don't necessarily agree with the way she handled the fake litterbox story, but I'm pissed off that the school committee will focus on that, but not focus on the McGurl report and the response that they should be making and the seriousness about the Aaron Thomas stuff, etc., etc. I hate Mary Brimer, but if she's like, look, my reasons for liking Mary Brimer is because I feel like she's bringing light to the Aaron Thomas sexual harassment stuff in ways that other members of the town council and people on the school committee are not. And that's why I like her. But I'm able to acknowledge and concede when certain decisions that she makes around talking about litter boxes on the radio aren't probably the best idea. But I like her for this reason. Like, that's fine. Like, I still hate Brimer, but I 100% understand why you like her. I just wish that you could, as I do when I concede, yeah, the school committee, it's probably a little fucked up that they didn't respond to that request for a written response. They should probably do that. Why can't you do the same with Mary Brimer? That would be so much harder for me to find any problem with whatsoever. To be clear, I still think it's wrong to say that the council shouldn't devote time to attacking Brimer for her stupid actions. But I just would find you to have more credibility if you showed you were willing to criticize the people on your own side. Personally, I'm not married to the honor of the people on the school committee or the other people on the town council. That's not why I'm here. It seems like instead of saying, hey, just focus on this more, this is more important, you're actually kind of running defense for Mary Brimer's allegations about the litter box. It feels like you're unwilling to criticize or even hear criticism of the people you like.
Bystanders in our school department like an old dirty sock.
Ken, if you could just...
It's time to start treating them like something that we want to take care of.
Tiffany McLeod is the lady, by the way, who's friends with Mary Brimer. This is the lady who's also harassing the woman who spoke up to criticize Mary Brimer and who texted her to tell her to resign. She's actually, as we speak, texting the woman to taunt her and say that she's going to meet with her boss, with Mary and the CEO, to try to get her fired from her private company. So this person is an absolute piece of shit as well. Imagine having the gall to criticize a public official. She says that she's going to go on to criticize public officials.
Thank you to Mary Brimer. What you did was brave, and I know that all of the parents...
So brave.
...know what's really going on in the school as far as that situation goes. They appreciate you trying to help. I'm also in awe of the bias in this room.
Bias. Everyone who doesn't like me is biased.
I was cut off a few months ago during public comment when talking about Mary King by Greg Mancini. I just witnessed him allow a citizen to spend her 3 minutes completely berating and insulting and attacking Mary Brimer because she does not agree with her stance on a public issue.
What do you think public comment is for? Do you think public comment is for fucking people from the town to walk up and just fucking uncritically jerk off all the city council members? Yay, you're doing a good job. No negativity, guys. Positive vibes only. Is that what you think a fucking town council is for? Then how do you get off criticizing anyone for anything ever? This is the dumbest, most laziest shit I've ever heard in my life. It's so stupid. Also, Habibi, in case you didn't pick up on this, he's letting you criticize him now. So it seems like it is being treated fairly, innit? You are allowed to go up to the stand and tell a local politician, hey, I don't like what you're doing. I don't think you're helping anyone. I think you're self-serving, and I don't like you. You're allowed to do that. It's called free speech. I thought you conservatives were all about that shit. You don't stop talking about it, despite the fact that you don't seem to understand what the concept means. Take the 2 brain cells that are left inside your skull and rub them together. Charge up a little bit of electrical activity up there and try to understand the cognitive dissonance of, on the one hand, clutching your pearls about a private citizen criticizing Mary Brimer, and then you criticizing members of the town council, including Greg, yourself. How does that work? It's literally rules for me and not for thee. Whenever you criticize people they support, it's bullying, it's uncalled for, it should be against the rules. But when you criticize people that they don't like, it's perfectly valid. Yas, queen. It's so brave. It's brave of you to do it. Like, I don't understand. I wish I could get inside these people's minds and see if they're actually this fucking stupid or if they're being malicious on purpose, if they're acting in bad faith. Because unironically, sometimes some of these people, I just can't tell. And that's besides the point of pointing out that calling what the lady did, who was criticizing Mary Brimer earlier, insulting. Like, in a general sense, yeah, when you're criticizing someone, in some sense, you're always kind of insulting them by saying you think they did something bad and that they're continuing to do bad things. I guess by that logic, literally any criticism you can make of anyone ever is an insult. But that doesn't mean it's invalid. You're just throwing that word in there to gain sympathy points and to make it seem horrible and wrong when it clearly is not. You cannot go through the girl who was criticizing Mary. I would use her name, but the only reason I'm not is because these fucking losers are actually trying to get her to lose her private job, which is fucking disgusting. That's the only reason why I'm shying away from saying her name. But the pearl clutching and the hand wringing is absolutely insufferable. For conservatives who are so facts over feelings and they're, super obsessed with, triggering the libs, which is something they said to me, by the way, in a social media thing, which I'll get to in a second. They are very easily fucking ruffled and very easily upset and very easily made to fucking cave it because they're paper tigers. They want to pick fights. They want to act tough. But when it comes down to it, they can't handle that same pressure directed at them. They can't handle valid criticism. So they call it all bullying. They lie and they say it's bullying when it's not. If you want to criticize me by saying that I'm bullying this Tiffany person by publicly posting about how she got arrested for assault on 2 separate occasions, that would be closer to bullying. But I would argue in response to that that's fair game because this person's literally going after someone else's job. So I'm okay with doing that. If you're the one who wants to bring those weapons out and attack people like that, you can't complain when it's returned to you in kind. You want to get that poor woman to lose her job? Well, then you can't complain when someone makes fun of you online for having been arrested for assault in the past. Like, you lost the right to wring your hands about that. You're the one who wanted to play that fucking game. Again, I'll say this over and over. It's being a crybaby, and it's being able to dish it out, but not being able to take it.
I'm not sure how that's fair, and that's because it's not.
It's because it is fair. You're just too stupid to understand. Again, criticizing a public official for actions they did as a town council member versus rambling about a private citizen's blog and taking some random social media petty quote to attack them and bringing up her private employer so that people will get her to lose her job. What's the difference between these two things? I have no idea. It's so unfair. Fucking moron. She's being malicious. She knows there's no double standard. She's just trying to win sympathy. She knows full well.
Mary, you know where you are on the right side of things, and many of us also have unfortunately had to deal with malicious attacks when we speak out on uncomfortable and controversial issues.
If you wanted to speak out on uncomfortable issues, you would have been honest. Listen, there's some people wearing makeup. There's some people wearing headbands with cat ears. We think it's a little cringe. Even then, I don't agree with, making that a town council issue and not just, an issue with those parents and those teachers. Because that's would be the appropriate way. But even regardless, you're not talking about uncomfortable issues because you have serious concerns. You are taking what could potentially be a complaint that you have and you're turning it to the nth degree by adding parts to the story that aren't true that you know are going to turn heads and get people to go, whoa, what? That's crazy. Litter boxes? Whoa, wow. Schools are out of control. That's what you're doing. Fucking, where you just want to talk about uncomfortable conversations? Bullshit. You call someone telling you to resign bullying. You're not at any place to lecture anyone on who's capable of having uncomfortable conversations. You live in the most padded, pathetic echo chamber I've ever seen in my life. Get out of here. Good speech, bro.
Jamie Gallo.
Oh, this is the fucking psychiatrist guy who lives with Mary, who's gonna. So if you're interested in what he's gonna say, I'm going to play it. But he's going to say, "Listen, I'm very concerned because I've had students coming in to my office who have been telling me about how distracting it is in their schools when so many people are identifying as cats."
And I can't really believe what's going on in this town. I really don't.
Eyes rolling in the back of my head.
Parents and children who are really concerned with what's going on in the schools, and there's so many distractions. And they reach out to the only council member that they feel they can trust that will actually.
Mic went out. Fuck, now we can't hear him. God damn it. Fucking Mary Brimer and her fucking fans here gave Greg a lot of shit for being mad at the IT people, but fuck, if I was in his position, I'd be fucking annoyed too. Like, can we get shit to fucking work so that everyone could be heard and that the meeting could be recorded properly? Like, fuck me, dude. This is fucking annoying. So if you couldn't catch it right there, because it's really hard to hear, he's like, oh, other members of the council are attacking, belittling Mary Brimer because they're making the litterbox issue a political issue, as if they're the ones who made it political. First of all, the phrase "make it a political issue" is so fucking cringe and annoying because this is a town council. I don't know if you know this. This is a town council. It literally is local politics. Were you unaware? What do you think political issue means? Does it just mean issue that you think is too contentious and you don't like talking about? Every issue that comes up here, however banal or agreed upon or, tedious it seems, is a political issue by definition. That's why a political body is handling it. I get my eyes roll into the back of my head whenever I hear someone talk about politics and complain about making issues political. It's just so boring.
I just want to know.
And respectfully, I'm going to listen to what you have to say, but I'm not going to engage in a back and forth.
Now, I understand there might be reasons for this. I am going to criticize my own side once again. I don't believe that woman who's not answering believes that students identifying as cats is a normal issue. I would say that if I was in that position, I'd probably say, listen, no, but it's not my place. I'm on the town council. I'm not the parent of those kids. I'm not dealing with that issue. And I'm not doing the behavioral discipline related to what's going on in the class. It's just not my place. You're asking the wrong person. That would be my response. I'd be like, no, identifying as a cat doesn't make any sense, but that's not my job to say. I feel like I understand what that lady in the corner would say in response. She would probably say, the reason why I don't want to answer that question, yes or no, is because I don't want to play into their game where they bring negative attention to students who might be identifying in that way, even if I think that's not how, identity works, even if I think it doesn't make any sense and that maybe those parents need to get those kids help. Even if I believe all of that, I'm not going to give them the play that they want, where I say that, and then they write stories about how council member admits that school children who identify as cats are doing something wrong and need professional help and all this, and then brings negative attention to those kids, and if the kids hear about it, make them feel like shit. I would probably not want to look like I was avoiding a question, and I would probably attack it head on and say, I don't agree with you turning this into a huge issue at the town council and bringing a lot of negative attention to the town, which isn't appropriate and isn't the way to handle it. I think that would be a response to make to this guy. But she's not going to answer. Then he's going to call her a coward.
I think she answered it.
That's not an answer. You're a coward. Mary
And you know
Brimer.
something? No name calling. Okay, it's a violation of rules. No name calling.
I will say, if I was the dictator of the town council, I can make the rules. I would say name calling. If you're calling a politician a coward, you know what? That's okay. But if you're cursing over the top or making actual false accusations of them being I don't even want to say because they'll take ideas from me, but that's too much. If you're interrupting a meeting, that's too much. 100%. If you're attacking the private job of a private citizen who just criticized you, also against the rules. I would feel pretty on board with that. But I think it's okay to call someone a coward, even if I think this guy's a dumb fuck and I think his issue is fake.
You can say what you say, want, but
Calling someone a coward is not calling him a name. It's just.
I think it is.
Okay, to be fair, calling someone a coward is by definition name calling. The name is coward. Again, I kind of think you should be able to do it. The line, I don't think calling someone a coward is name calling, is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. This guy's a psychiatrist. Well.
You allow people to belittle Mary here, and I call her a coward. I'm insulting her.
When the lady went up to criticize her, they criticized her, they brought up the things that she did. They never called her a coward. I didn't call her a name like coward, even though I kind of wanted to. The other lady who did it didn't. Oh, this lady's getting back into it with me right now. I fucking hate, with all my heart, more than anything, the pearl clutching. We're saying, I don't think what you did was appropriate. I think you were self-serving, and I think that you knew that this wasn't a real issue and you were being malicious and spreading misinformation. That sentence has nothing to do with name calling. If you want to call it belittling because you're a fucking pussy, then fine, that's belittling. But that's different than going, you're a coward, you're a coward. And again, I literally think you should be able to do that. But it's just not the same. And it was in the rules that you couldn't do that. So just don't do it. And he didn't even like stop you, like saying you can't speak anymore. You're cut off. He didn't even do that. He just said, hey, knock it off. That's all he did. He just told you to stop doing it. Yeah, Greg's literally like, I didn't hear anyone call Mary a coward. He's fucking right. No one did. You're allowed to attack you're allowed to attack my character and the things that I do and the way I behave. Well, then why am I allowed to call you a coward and call you this and call you that? It's two different things. It's not related. They actually are too stupid to understand the difference between those two things.
Because you had the audacity to create a political issue for students that are actually having a hard time in school concentrating because others. You
made it a political issue when instead of saying, hey, people are having a hard time concentrating, you said people are shitting in sandboxes. Does that sound a little bit sensational to you? You turned it into an issue where you could attack other people in the local government by saying they were doing crazy, gross shit and allowing students and enabling students to do that. You didn't say, wow, school committee members are so bad for allowing people to wear makeup and wear headbands with cat ears. You said they're horrible for providing litter boxes. How are you treating like anyone but you made this a divisive issue? You were literally lying about it. You just lied about it. You can't fucking cry and bitch and moan now that other people made it a divisive issue and belittled you. Dumb fucking bastard.
That you wanted to identify as animals. Now, this is a systemic problem in our education. It's not just in our school system. It's coming across the country. And it's starting to develop here, and we have to get a hold of it now. Otherwise, it's going to affect us.
Don't teach systemic racism. Teach about systemic catism. Anyway, it's funny how they'll talk about, Mary will talk, and he will talk about how it's happening all over in schools all over. But then they'll attack me or the other girl for saying, well, you're not currently in this specific school system, even though you might have, connections to other schools. So you can't say that it's not a real issue. You can't say it's fake.
So if
bad-mannered.
That kids, truly, and I know you don't, because you want to be a...
If you know they don't, why are you asking the question? I would just like to take the wind out of this guy's sails by answering this directly and then seeing what response they have from there. Because they would probably respond by saying, then why are you allowing them to? And we would say, it is inappropriate for the town council to bring negative attention to chastise students for doing minor things that don't necessarily make any sense. Fucking Jane Doe in the 6th grade is wearing whiskers. We have to have a council meeting about how what she's doing is crazy. It's not healthy. That's not a smart way to do things.
This is normal behavior because I don't. I think I outrank you as well. So I don't. She didn't make it a political issue. It has nothing to do with gender identity or any of that. It's all about
If it has nothing to do with gender identity, why every time she talks about it does she somehow find a way to bring up non-binary bathrooms? Oh, the litter boxes, they're actually in the non-binary bathrooms. It's clear what she's doing. If you lack the social skills to be able to tell what's going on, then that's up to you. But either you know or you don't. Either you get it or you don't. But I can't explain that to someone who doesn't have the mental capacity to, like, understand what she's doing when she links those two together. Uh-oh, we're listening to ourselves talk now. Hold on.
Also formerly went to school here and as the young.
Oh, fuck, I missed my joke. Because she yelled at me that I was YouTube guy, when I went up there and I said, and as the lovely lady in the second row there has said, the YouTube guy. It missed it. Damn it.
Stories covered by the Associated Press and the New York Times and PolitiFact and all the sources that when I bring up people to whom these stories are inconvenient, we'll just call them fake news. The fake letterbox stories, well, people will pretend like students are identifying as cats and being provided litter boxes by their woke teachers so that they can use them. This isn't happening. It's a ridiculous straw man, and despite what she says and the fact that she denies it, it's just a way to take a cheap swipe at the gender politics.
What the fuck? Why is the video freezing?
The culture wars
There you go.
around that issue. You can tell when she brings up, while talking about this on her radio appearances, that they might be in the gender-neutral bathrooms, or she finds some way to refer to those. This isn't something that's actually happening. I would be willing to believe that it's possible that there are students who are wearing cat ears or something like that. And if so, there could be a dress code that takes care of that, or it could be left alone if there's no problem. It doesn't matter. It's not a serious issue. The dress code can solve it or not. I do not believe, unless I see some evidence, that there is an actual epidemic of students who are identifying as cats in a serious manner, in the same way that other identities are being discussed around cultural issues. And if this is an issue that she wanted to take seriously and have
A little bit of a hiccup there, but we'll move on.
a discussion about gender issues or about identity, non-binary bathrooms, whatever she wanted to talk about, she could have done that in a serious way without bringing a fake issue to this town that makes this look a little ridiculous and a little silly. I also didn't appreciate the reference to Aaron Thomas in a way to say that, oh, well, people covered up this story, so they're probably covering up fake litter boxes. I think that's a ridiculous comparison. I myself was in school while Aaron Thomas was there, and I heard rumors about what was going on with him and was horrified to learn the truth after I graduated. But I think that if I had personally been a victim of him, I would very much have not appreciated my tragedy being used to push a dumb, petty culture war issue around identities and cats and litter boxes. Hold on 1 second, I have more written down.
Just so we can wrap up sooner. Thank you.
I don't appreciate the negative attention that was being brought to the very kids she pretends to have empathy for. I don't think that's very healthy, even if there are issues that need to be taken care of regarding them. And I also don't appreciate the divisiveness before this issue that came about with her accusations of school committee member Jennifer Lima engaging in CRT in regards to her job on the school committee, when this is just something she talks about on her website. She doesn't incorporate this into school.
Wrap it up, Jonathan.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
There was so much more that I wanted to say. I barely scraped the surface of her trying to bully Jennifer Lima out of her job for being a Marxist who wants to teach white kids to hate herself, which isn't true. At the end, I didn't really get to cover much of it, although I got to kind of refer to it. I really wanted to get to my last bullet point about how, and I added this literally while it was happening, while the outburst happened previously with Mary Brimer and the lady who dared to criticize her. I wanted to call out the cry bullying right there, that she will complain about being bullied while literally calling out someone's private job, and that she will complain about being bullied when she's getting just banal fucking mild messages saying, you should resign, this is embarrassing. like a public official acting like that's bullying doesn't belong on the council. And I wanted to say that, but I ran out, and I had been told twice to wrap it up, and I didn't want to push my luck.
I think you want to be very clear about what's being done in accommodation for comfort, or whether something's being done in terms of accommodation for identity. I was very alarmed to have heard of someone, students having identity as a cat, as another species, not as a joke. It wasn't to put someone down. It was alarming, like, is this happening in terms of someone identifying as a species? Is that something you want to accommodate in school? And then take a step further, are we being ADA compliant with something that we're supposed to be, supposed to be required to do in terms of accommodations when it comes to those that are recognized violence? So that was the one thing that I would say that you want to be very clear in your policy. Is this traditional dress code and comfort? Is it something which you're really talking about someone's species? And I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not going to say anything about diagnosing. Personally speaking, you want to identify whoever you want to identify. That's your business. Good for you. The question I had was,
okay, so he's talking about, oh, I'm okay with people identifying as whatever they want to identify. I would even push back against that the opposite way and say you shouldn't probably be okay with people identifying as cats. That probably doesn't make any sense. It probably shouldn't be if that's you, that's you. You should probably push back against that. The problem is that that's not actually happening.
Public school deciding, given those circumstances and everything else that's in question. To those who I'm hearing equating other civil rights and other issues in terms of identity when it comes to as someone as a black person, someone who is the G in the LGBTQ community, I'm alarmed, and it may not be intentional, but I am having some concerns about equating someone wanting to identify as another species with the human rights.
Actually direct messaged this guy about this and told him the reason why people are accusing Mary of conflating the two issues. And I sent him the stories that she's having John DePietro run for her about this fake issue, where they directly bring up gender politics and gender identity and actually blame trans stuff in schools and gender identity in schools as being the slippery slope that allows the cat thing to come into play. So he didn't seem to understand it at the moment when he was speaking there, but I explained it and he responded and thanked me for the information. Whether he took that to heart or not, I can't say, but
So I understand that may not be your intent, but what I am getting a feel for is you may be exploiting and appropriating those rights.
We're accusing her of, what's the word he used? Exploiting not like minorities, like racial minorities, but although she does get into that weird race shit with her complaints about critical race theory, but minorities related to like trans people, the T in LGBT, we're saying that she's exploiting them and she's trying to attack them stealthily through this fake issue that she's concocted, that she's seen run in other states and copied to brought to our lovely town.
We had the most unusual political process that's ever been confronted in this country, ever, anywhere. All right? And Mr. Jones happened to be in the middle of that. Now, we've talked a lot about qualifications. That's what this is about. It's not about, let's put our favorite person in, let's make the person we think who's...
Talk about favorite person, like, my dude, one of the people who's running is literally, like, living with Mary Brimer. Like, this is, by the way, if you don't understand why I'm saying that, oh my god, my fucking cam is covering it again. This guy who's speaking on the left here, is, like, the other conservative who, like, supports Mary Brimer. That's why I'm calling it like a hypocrisy thing right now.
I forget the political process. Forget about what happened in the last election.
Wait, forget about the political... no. The process is kind of important, my dude. What are you saying? And then this part I completely blanked on. I didn't realize what he was talking about.
Last election has got to be one of the biggest anomalies that ever took place in our country, in our history, as far as the political process is concerned.
I was half listening because I was looking through my notes, like mulling over the things I missed that I didn't say in my speech. At first I thought when I was half listening, oh, he's talking about the last school election. No, he's literally rambling about the fucking Trump-Biden election of 2020 right now. That's what he's doing.
Carrie, I respect you enormously. I think you know that. I hope you know that. But I have to ask you, are you insinuating that the last election was a lie?
I called it an anomaly. I didn't mention lie. You did.
Come the fuck on. Are we really gonna split hairs about the election was an anomaly? The election was a lie. He's saying that there was unexplained things that happened in the election. That means that the results of that election have been thrown into question. He is 100% playing into the conservative narrative about how the election was stolen from Trump. Brett was giving me shit after because I went to go refill my water. Oh my god, you missed it. This guy was literally talking about how fucking Biden stole the election at this fucking town council meeting, and you missed it.
I'm just saying, I lived through it. I understand it. And I think there's enough controversy about the last election.
It's frozen.
There's a controversy about a lot of things going on in our country right now that one side has accused the other side, and a lot of that has been proven to be false. So right now, I didn't say lie. You did. You used that word.
Oh, wait. He said that one side has accused the other side, and a lot of the stuff has been come up as false. Is he talking about how the Republicans accused the Democrats of stealing the election, but it was proven to be a false accusation in every court filing that Trump lawyers tried to put up to prove it? Unless he's saying that the Democrats are accusing Republicans about something unjustly. He could literally be saying anything right now. It's impossible to tell because of the vague language he's using, which I guess benefits us. It doesn't it?
That the last election, with the number of mail-in ballots and the number of opportunities that were out there.
Okay, so now he is playing. He's talking about the mail-in ballots and how that was bad. Okay, so he is playing. You know what? The things where the false lies and the accusations, probably the fucking Russian and Ukraine thing that he's like butthurt about. That's probably what he actually was saying. And I was giving him too much credit. He actually is saying that the fucking mail-in ballots probably stole the election for Joe Biden in a disingenuous way. So he is perpetuating that false talking point. Okay. After the town council meeting, what happened was Mary Brimer stayed in the room as everyone else left with radio host John DePetro, the guy who ran her story before, to interview her. John DePetro was there, and I went in and I was like, hey, I emailed you. I tried to call into your show, but you don't take call-ins. I would love to talk to you about you pushing Mary Brimer's story about litter boxes as true without any evidence. And he's like, oh, well, you don't live here. You don't have kids in this school. I'm like, no, I don't. But you guys also don't have evidence for the shit that you're saying. So I feel like I'm as qualified as anyone to talk about this. And then he's like, listen, I'm just here to report on the things that Mary Brimer says because she's an elected politician. I'm like, yeah, okay. Uncritically, though, right? Like, you don't actually dig into the things that she says. You're not an actual journalist. You don't try to verify whether or not the things that she says as a politician are true. You just report them. And he was like, well, if we went to dig into whether or not the story was true, it would just turn into a debate and it would just be messy. It was like, yeah, a debate about whether or not the things she was saying are true or not. That's pretty valid, isn't it? And, you know, he just hand waved away. I said, okay. And we went our separate ways. So that was interesting. So in other fun news, the loser girls who loudly interrupted the town council meeting to complain about a local politician being criticized on the stand. How dare they? Have an Instagram account where they basically run both offense and defense for Mary Brimer. That's what those two girls do with their time, I guess. They call all of her enemies groomers, like school committee leader Jennifer Lima, because she linked an NPR article talking about sexual education, and run defense for Mary Brimer by saying that she is the unfair victim of harassment, etc., and then attack, I guess, this guy who ended up being appointed to the school committee. Next time they yell at me, oh, get out of here, YouTube guy, I should be like, get out of here, Instagram girl. The interesting part about this isn't really that they're calling me triggered while literally blocking me so I couldn't respond. Here, I'm on like an alternative account right now, just so I can view and comment on this post. But the interesting part is that they didn't delete this comment mocking them for their disruption of the council, but they did delete my comment on this where I point out, I literally just quote the article and call them dishonest for saying that this is grooming, sharing this NPR article about sex ed in kindergarten, because they're trying to dishonestly portray this as they literally want to teach kindergartners about sexual intercourse, which isn't what's happening. When I quoted the article, age-appropriate sex ed for kindergartners includes topics like consent, identifying who is in your family, and correct names for body parts. That means getting permission before you touch someone else, asking if it's okay to borrow people's belongings, so that kids can learn about personal boundaries. This is what they're talking about. This is grooming to you. The problem is when they just share the headline and they don't share the content of the article, they get to disingenuously accuse Jennifer Lima of wanting to teach kindergartners the literal birds and the bees, when that's not what she's saying. And then all these people in the comments, oh, this is sick. Oh, and then this guy, he's in on it. Don't even bother. He's literally the psychiatrist who lives with Mary Brimer. I guess it is kind of good she has a psychiatrist living with her. Apparently she needs one. And well, what in the freaking world, when really what's being discussed isn't that surprising and isn't that controversial. Literally, my reply, literally just quoting the article and calling them illiterate too, that made them so uncomfortable they had to delete it because they knew it made them look like fucking morons. The other post, they were comfortable leaving my comment because they thought that they could just shit talk me back and that would play off well for them. I mean, the jury's out on whether or not that's true. But with this one, they actually realized they fucked up, either because they didn't read the article themselves or because they realized that just quoting the article was enough to make them look dishonest. So they were so uncomfortable they had to remove it, which is really funny to me. But I'm triggered, by the way. So much for conservatives believing in free speech, am I right, guys? This account is really disgusting. The guy who was at the meeting last night, I guess they appointed this guy to the school committee. I guess he's a bad person for saying nice things about RuPaul. I guess that's what they're going for. Or they're just taking this random dumb post from social media to make him look bad, I guess. Like, I don't really see what they're going for. But they seem really ass mad that this guy got the school committee seat. I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that they chose this specific clip to play to attack me. Hold on. They said that this is a snippet and it's pretty disturbing. She's saying the parents don't want to make their names public because of people like this. She didn't do a very good job explaining here. They're saying because people like me, the parents who are saying there are litter boxes in schools, don't want to make their names public. It's like, okay, well, that's great, but now no one's going to believe you because there's no evidence. It's just the councilwoman with actual motivation to spread a fake story that's been spread all across the country is saying it's happening. And she says she has sources, but they don't want to come forward. Well, okay, well, now I just don't believe you. Sorry. If you want to come forward publicly, how are people supposed to believe that you're real and that this is actually happening? But if a fucking parent just went and said, hey, my kid told me this is happening, I believe this is happening because of XYZ, then what would I say to attack them? I would just ask for more evidence. I just like the fact that this is the clip that they thought made me look bad. I wasn't a victim of the Aaron Thomas sexually harassing students debacle, but if I was, I would hate this lady for casually using my suffering and trauma to push her dumbass brainlet culture war story about fucking litter boxes. Fucking based. Who is this guy? He is over the base department. Base department. We have a case for you. If I could have chosen a single phrase to give myself positive marketing to make myself look as good as possible, this is unironically the one line I would choose. And these guys, I wish I could read their minds and figure out what they were thinking. They posted it as a way to make me look disturbing. What a worthless human being. What a morally fucking disgusting thing to do. True. You know what else is morally disgusting? The fact that she went after the other girl who criticized her private job, and is literally, as I speak at this moment, trying to meet with her supervisor and the CEO of her private company to get her fucking banned from some role. Imagine being a town council person, being so ass mad that people are criticizing you, that you go after private citizens' private jobs. As much as there are people who like this lady and who are buying into her little story, I can't imagine that there are too many voters who would put up with that at all. Even conservative voters that I personally don't like, I can't imagine any of them thinking that it's cool and okay to go after that person's private job. But maybe I just have too much, maybe I just hold conservatives in too high a regard. Maybe I have too much of a high opinion of them. Maybe they actually would think that it's cool to go after her private job because they personally don't like her. Republicans and conservatives have been hypocrites before when it comes to free speech and being allowed to criticize politicians without fucking getting vengeance visited upon them. Like, actually fucking insane that that's happening. And she acts like it's been confirmed that students are identifying as cats. That's not true. The NKS, they literally, in the frame of their Instagram post, leave in the part where I debunk Mary Brimer's claim that people conceded or admitted to the fact that students are identifying as cats. Because remember, they tried to play it off like, oh, they said that they are identifying as cats, but it's not for anyone to, but it's not my job to comment on it. But that's not what, again, that's not what she said. She literally said, as to the reports that there are students in the district who identify as cats, I can't comment on that. That doesn't mean it's happening. That means that she doesn't know, she can't disclose what individual students are doing because it's not appropriate. She means there are 4,000 students in our district. She can't track down every student and figure out, like, are you identifying as a cat? Are you identifying as a cat? It's not her job. She can't do that. And it's not really her business to go around and interrogate and ask students and find out the truth, the claims that fucking, oh yeah, I identify as a cat, Mrs. Lima. That's her point. But they're trying to play it off like, see, they're admitting it. No, not really. And the funny thing is, like, I'm not unwilling to believe that there could be like one student who's like wearing inappropriately cat-like clothing, or like a headband with cat ears, or like something over the top, or is saying some dumb shit about how I'm a cat, ha ha ha. Not because the kid is dumb, but because just kids do dumb things. Like, I'm not unwilling on principle to entertain the possibility that that could happen. The problem is when they lied about the litterbox shit, when they pushed a story without actually trying to verify what was true and what wasn't, because it fit into a narrative and was convenient for them, they lost all credibility. And that's even me giving as much charity as possible, where I would assume something I don't personally believe, which is that they didn't make up the story themselves. Personally, I believe that they were upset when their attempts to bully school committee member Jennifer Lima out of her position failed miserably. They were basically saying that she was trying to teach CRT to kids when she wasn't. She just talked about it on her private website that had nothing to do with her job. And when they tried to say she was a Marxist, which doesn't seem to be true either, along with a lot of other cringe shit they put on that flyer. Anyway, I believe they were upset when that failed, so that their next lie to tell and their next way to stir shit was to make up a story about litter boxes, because they saw the articles from like Iowa and New York and said, hey, we could copy that story and do it here. Wouldn't that be cute? Never ends. Not only is she apparently doubling down in an interview she did right after the town council meeting on, they're actually just hiding the litter boxes. Of course they are. They did another story, and look at the way this reads. I highlighted the parts. Some of you guys are like equating this cat issue to LGBT issues, and I don't think that's really cool. No, that's what the other side is doing. One progressive teacher praised the student for being brave and having the courage to listen to their inner self. Identifying pronouns is the new political correctness, as schools are allowing students to identify as he, she, they, or something else, like a different species apparently. The progressive left encourages young children to experiment with gender reassignment, and now the trend is moving into cats and dogs. So it is 100% about LGBT issues. It's almost as if it was exactly what I accused it of being.
If a kid wants to wear a cat ears or cat whiskers or whatever it may be, however they want to dress, let them do it, as long as it's not disruptive and distracting to the other students in the building. And for adults in positions...
He says if it's not disruptive. If it's not disruptive, then it's not going to be someone literally on the fucking ground eating out of a dog food bowl and barking. So it sounds like that part, either the teacher is lying and that's what's happening, or more likely, because this John DePietro guy has no credibility and no spine and no integrity or backbone. He's the one who's lying, and this isn't happening. He's just exaggerating because he wants to sell the narrative.
...of prominence in this state to be harassing these kids and creating a bullying type mentality is disgraceful.
It's funny because I'm going to leak the DMs of that person. One of the people who simps so hard for fucking Mary Brimer and the Facebook NK page literally said to me in the DM, oh, back in my day, we should bully these kids and then they would stop doing it. She literally said that. Talking about the lizards, the alleged lizard person at CCRI. And then she says, they have to ignore, but they all want to bully him. That's how it was done in my day. He'd be in the dumpster with his underwear pulled over his head. That's unironically what these people want to do to these kids. Actually, these conservatives.
And I call on every single member of the media who has been engaged in this nonsense to recant what they've said and apologize to these kids.
I really don't feel like making more footage for this fucking video, but I'll grit my teeth and watch whatever the fuck this is gonna be.
Hearing a dozen students running around in the middle school pretending to be cats.
A dozen.
I'm still hearing from students and parents they believe there is a litter box in that school.
They believe.
And when
why?
everybody
Wait,
will turn...
Can we understand? Can you say, why do they believe that? Did they hear a kid say something? Did they visit the school and see something? Did a teacher see something? Like this dumb... Whenever someone gets conspiracy brained like this, I really have to question every single thing that comes out of their mouth. They're hiding the litter boxes from you, parents. Like, just run your mind through this universe that you've created where some teacher thought it was a good idea to provide a litter box to a student, and then when called out for it, decided to hide it. Like, just doesn't it just sound a little silly when it comes out of your mouth?
The other cheek to allegations. A rumor is just a rumor until it becomes true. Now, as you heard a young hearing a dozen students...
A rumor becomes a rumor until it becomes true?
For a moment, what about the statement of whether someone identifies as he, she, they, or something else? Have they provided an explanation of what that something else might be?
They have not, but I'll tell you what, if you go out and you speak to 10 different parents in this community, they were outraged when they got that email from the school department. They were outraged because then suddenly it became true. Oh, you admit that there are students identifying as something else other than human.
No, they're not admitting that. You're just too fucking illiterate to understand. I don't know what to tell you. They're just saying whatever they identify as, we don't care. It's not our job to care about that. It's not our place to talk on that. We're not the fucking parents, dog. That's what they're saying.
Against.
So the litter box exists. They're just hiding it.
They're just hiding it.
See, so she's saying, she earlier said, I'm still hearing from parents that they think there's a litter box in that school. So that's an allegation that something might be true. And then the radio host says, it is there, they're just hiding it, stating it as fact. And then she repeats him, yeah, they are just hiding it. You just said you don't know that people believe it's there. And now, in the same breath, out of both corners of your mouth, now you're saying, oh no, it's 100% true. You're too stupid to even figure out what you want to say. You can't even figure out whether or not you want to claim that it's possible or that it's 100% happening. You're too stupid to figure out what your strategy is here.
Yeah, they're just
it's there for comfort. It's there for comfort. Have you heard that?
I asked the question incorrectly, so let me correct the record.
Oh my God, are we gonna get some introspection here? Let's actually see her give the nuanced version of her question. Let's see what this is. This is not pre-watched. I'm actually curious how she turns this around.
The question shouldn't have been, are you providing litter boxes? Are you allowing the accommodation? Because they answered the question correctly. No, they weren't providing it. Is it allowed as an accommodation?
If they're not providing it, then it's not allowed. What is this? This is a distinction without meaning. Maybe she's suggesting that they're not providing it, but maybe she's suggesting that the students are allowed to bring them. Like a student just fucking has their fucking litter box next to them on the school bus as they're riding in. And so they bring their own as an accommodation. What are you suggesting? I don't even know what you're accusing the school department of doing at this point. The stuff you're saying is so idiotic, it's actually impossible to tell what story you're using at any given time. Note the fact that there's been like 3 different stories about exactly how this is happening at this point. First it was the teachers are providing them. Now it's not, they're not providing them, but it's allowed as an accommodation. When I texted her, it was, well, the litter box thing has been denied, but students are still wearing eyeliner and fucking cat ear headbands. They can't even decide which story they want to go with. Their strategy is to make you dizzy by saying 20 different stories all at once and forcing you to try to pick apart what's bullshit and what's not. So you can't actually attack them because they're saying so much shit, they actually can't shift through it all. That's what they're doing. I wanted to touch on this one more time. It's really insidious the way that they drew twines of yarn and compared the issues between Aaron Thomas and his malfeasance and wrongdoings being covered up by the school committee and the school department, etc., versus the litter box issue and the students identifying as cats issue. It's really gross because now, if you have criticisms of Mary Brimer for the way that she reported that litter box story as true, and for the way she's handling the theoretical kids who are identifying as cats, if you say that she's full of shit on any of that, well, now magically, because they compared the two, that means you're okay with Aaron Thomas fucking harassing kids. No, not really. I'm gonna take the bold stance right now of being against grown men sexually harassing children in locker rooms. I know that's a brave stance for me to take. I'm also for criticizing the school committee or criticizing the school department itself for the way it failed to handle the allegations when they first come out and when they failed to handle it in a proper way when it was happening, etc., etc. I'm on board with all of that. But these people have made it so that the two issues have been confusingly and bizarrely linked. And the reason why they're doing that is so that they can shut down anyone who criticizes them or dissents with the things they're saying around the dumb cat issue by just bringing up Aaron Thomas as if that's somehow relevant. And I think that's really gross and really dishonest, and I don't like it at all. It makes me really, really not like them.